Chael Sonnen believes he is 5 minutes away from achieving his lifelong athletic dream of being a world champion. They are on their feet, sold out Oracle Arena.
Anderson's still very light on his feet.
Oh, he tagged him! Again, he got him! Rocked him!
Unbelievable.
I mean, is it too early for Chael to start celebrating?
It was a fight that sort of just landed in the lap of mixed martial arts fans. In 2010, Anderson Silva's stock was not high among the fan base, and the cure to that negative stain was going to come in the form of a rival who had been a stalwart within the sport, but had never quite crossed the threshold into becoming a fighter that people cared about. For the longest time, the debate was not about this man's personality or the lines he would cross to promote a fight, but simply, how do you pronounce his name? Chael Sonnen? And in October of 2009, that's about as exciting as things got when it came to Chael Sonnen.
I'm not in here to be famous or to get on TV or to make a bunch of money. I'm in here, I'm after a belt that's 12 pounds in the color of gold.
That was hours after Sonnen's victory against an impressive yet unheralded fighter in Yushin Okami at UFC 104. While the rest of the fan base was engaged over whether Mauricio Shogun Rua was robbed against light heavyweight champion Lyoto Machida, or whether leg kicks could in fact end a fight, Sonnen had to accept his role in the UFC's middleweight division that saw fit to place him and Okami on the prelims in a world where Fight Pass and Facebook fights didn't exist. You had to search to find these fights, and the problem was, few people did. And Sonnen knew that the fans were not responding to this version of himself.
He's got a few things that he turns to. He doesn't come outside of the box too much. You kind of know what you're dealing with. But nobody's really been able to stop him. He's pretty effective. He's got some good clinch. He's strong. He's in shape. He's pretty tough. So, he's got a little bit of everything. But, he's certainly a beatable guy.
Here he was, potentially a fight or two away from fighting for the championship. But with little fanfare, what case was he making to pivot to a main event position? His next fight was a big one, in February of 2010, taking on Nate Marquardt, with the winner in line to fight for the middleweight title. Sonnen took the lessons of Yushin Okami and UFC 104 to not take his position on the pay-per-view main card for granted. The door had been opened, and he was going to maximize the exposure, including being asked to be part of the UFC 109 Countdown special. It was evident that there was an extra fire behind Sonnen's words, designed with the purpose of making his mark.
It doesn't do me any good to good close match, a good tough fight. Boy, Chael, you sure looked good against Nate. I have to beat him. I am confident that I will find a way. When they shut that door and we get in that ring, I will find a way to win this fight.
Once again, Sonnen was victorious, and he was on the cusp of fighting for his first UFC championship. Later that night, the transformation was complete, and it was all business for Sonnen as he began to build himself up for the opponent that he would forever be linked to.
Well, it'll be a verbal beat. Anderson Silva will be in tears before it's all over. Look, there's just a lot out there on the guy. I mean, this guy's no more real than the Loch Ness monster. And if he needs me to expose him, I will. But I'll tell you, the guys in the back know who the tough guy is. If we walk in the back dressing room and Anderson says put on hip hop and Chael walks in and says put on country, I guarantee it's going to be a hoedown. The guys are going to do what I say. So as far as him being the bully of the playground, well, his 15 minutes of fame is up.
The fight nearly happened in April. After challenger Vitor Belfort was set to fight Silva, an injury led to an opening. However, due to the effects of the Marquardt fight, it would not be Sonnen to take that spot, but instead Damian Maia, and it led to one of the worst nights in UFC history, with Dana White furious with his middleweight champion.
I don't think I've ever been more embarrassed in the 10 years of being in this business. And it's the first time that I've ever walked out on a main event and given the belt to the guy's manager and told him to put it on him. But this was a historic event for us. The arena tonight was incredible. The energy was amazing. And to end it the way that we did is an embarrassment, for me, the Fertittas, the UFC, and, the sport in general. So I apologize. And I will, I don't know how yet, but I will make this up to the fans that bought this tonight.
This gave Sonnen his ammunition. He would be the one to rid the UFC of Silva's middleweight title reign and would serve another function in hyping up a fight that made fans quickly forget about UFC 112 and start counting down the days to UFC 117 in August. Sonnen realized this was the culmination of his fighting career and a chance to make a real difference with his legacy, his pocketbook, and the UFC championship picture. Sonnen knew his performance would not be graded just by 3 judges at ringside, but by the numbers purchasing this card and caring about the fight. So Sonnen went to the industry he knew inside and out when it came to selling grudges to the public.
This close to losing my belt and this close to taking that man's mask off his head and showing the world really how ugly he is.
But Dutch Mantel, you're going to pay, baby. I'm going to be in your coffee. I'm going to be in your eggs and bacon. I'm going to be in your pancakes. I might even be, I don't even want to say where I might be.
February 16th, Frank Bonham Memorial. Be ready for the grappler, Kurt Hennig, and beat me if you can.
Survive if I let you.
I think a black belt under the Nogueira brothers is saying I got a free toy in my Happy Meal. I don't really understand what the big deal is. I saved Anderson's job. Uncle Dana was going to give him his walking papers, and I begged him, keep him around. Keep him around for one more fight. I will retire this guy. I am now hyping this fight. Anderson Silva speaks English. He just refuses to speak to his fans. He's a fraud. It's kind of like he gets in the ring and he likes to bow. He doesn't come from a bowing culture. If you bow in Brazil, they'll hit you over your head and take your wallet and walk off laughing.
Now it was Sonnen's opportunity. He would receive the next title fight, and with Silva's stock at a low point, all ears and eyes were on Sonnen to draw as much interest for this fight and show zero respect to the reigning champion, compelling the public to buy this fight. And he would go to any length and any absurdity to get people talking about him.
So, Chael, what happened? Did you or did you not make the statement that Lance Armstrong gave himself cancer?
I did not, and Lance Armstrong called me about that. We are teammates on the Nike team together. I work out in the Lance Armstrong building. But I assure you, Jim, you will not see any footage of any such interview, complimentary or derogatory, on that topic.
Chael, there's actually, though, audio on the internet of if it's not you, it's somebody saying it. Is it not you who made the statement?
Look, it's not me. There's 5 MySpace pages for me. They're not me. There's 5 Facebooks and there's 2 Twitter accounts. And I'm not even on the internet on a daily basis. So I can't say it any clearer. I told Lance I made peace with him yesterday. That's not me.
I mean, I could play this for you. Can you tell me if I play this for you that this is not you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can play it for me.
Let me play it for you, Chael. Go ahead.
When you screw up and take Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong did a number of things, and he gave himself cancer. Okay, Lance Armstrong cheated. He did drugs. He gave himself cancer. Well, instead of saying, hey, listen, I cheated, nobody else should cheat or you could get cancer, he actually made himself the victim and then went out and profited like $15-some million.
Chael, I could be wrong. That sounds a lot like you.
Jim, that doesn't sound anything like me. Have the callers call in. There's no way anybody will think that sounds like me.
Chael, honestly, because, I mean, respectfully, it sounds exactly like you.
Sounds like a guy with a Hispanic accent to me. Maybe I had a bad connection, but I thought you were kidding around with that voiceover. That's certainly not me.
For all the interviews and insults, the fact remained that Sonnen was a massive underdog, and he was set to meet one of the greatest fighters the sport had ever seen, and that was not lost on people in the lead up to the fight.
I think it's a bad matchup for you. How do you think that fight's going to go?
For submissions, Anderson Silva's pretty good at submissions. What's your answer to that?
Earlier in his career, that is what Sonnen was known for, was, winning fights and then losing.
Sonnen has been very vulnerable to submissions. He makes mistakes and he gets caught all the time. And Silva, I think, is proficient enough that he could very well submit the guy.
At the end of the day, that Chael Sonnen does not want to go out there and get into a striking match with Anderson Silva. He's probably going to go out there, use his wrestling abilities, and he's the kind of guy that can take you down, put you up against the fence, and do some serious damage.
Yes, he makes mental mistakes on the ground.
Chael could win. It's possible. It's unlikely.
time had finally come. It was fight week, and the UFC descended upon Oakland, California, with a grudge fight that had been brewing for months. The energy was at a fever pitch in the days and hours leading up to the fight.
You know, I've been calling this guy out for 4 years, and he still doesn't want to fight me. I became the #1 contender on February 6th, and on February 7th, he put out a press release as to why he shouldn't have to fight me. So if it takes pressure to get that fight to happen, then that's what it's going to take. Well, I don't fully know what respect means. That sounds like something a kid says in the street after he's getting ready to take your coat and shoes. But, you know, listen, they want to talk about respect. I don't do that stuff. I'm here to fight.
No, it's definitely become the Chael Sonnen show. Which is crazy with such a stacked card, with so much talent. But what everybody keeps talking about, what everybody's interested in, is Chael Sonnen.
Nobody cares about Anderson Silva. Nobody buys his merchandise. He's the worst-selling pay-per-view draw in the history of the UFC Championship division. He doesn't talk to the fans. He doesn't talk to the media. He pretends he doesn't speak English. This is the way it should be. It should be the Chael Sonnen show. I'm the one they're tuning in to see. I'm the one that's selling out the arena, not him.
Out of the blue corner, this man is a family judo fighter, holding a professional record, 26 wins, 10 losses, and 1 draw. He stands 6 feet 1 inch tall, weighing in at 185 pounds. Fighting out of Westland, Oregon, ladies and gentlemen, presenting the challenger, Chael Sonnen!
What would Sonnen do to grab everyone's attention when the fight began? Here was Sonnen, the underdog, going for the championship with everyone expecting the wrestler to try and wrestle. It was a similar story to one of Sonnen's mentors when he was the underdog going for the UFC Heavyweight Championship.
Welcome back, Randy Couture! Randy touches him early. Randy trying to finish Silva.
Now, it was Sonnen's time to prove the doubters wrong.
Shot by Chael Sonnen. Uppercuts. Oh my goodness! He hurt him again. Sonnen strikes early.
Wow. Who would have expected that?
Sonnen dominated Silva like no one else had in the UFC throughout the opening round, connecting at will and producing a round that even the most ardent critic would have to accept was a 10-8. Then it continued. And it continued. After 4 rounds, the massive underdog was well ahead on everyone's scorecards, with an easy argument that he had 3 10-8s banked and a 4th round in his favor as well. 5 minutes separated Sonnen from achieving his goal of becoming a champion, 5 minutes to end the run of Anderson Silva, 5 minutes to secure his legacy in the sport, and 5 minutes to fulfill a promise.
His father passed away in 2003.
The day he passed away, I told him I'm going to win the world championship. It's the only promise that I ever made him that I didn't keep. And I've done everything in my power to keep it. And I will continue to.
Said I owe everything I've achieved in my life to the work ethic that my father taught me. And we're seeing it all come to fruition here tonight in this title fight.
By counting down the minutes, the crowd was simultaneously counting out Anderson Silva. But then...
a record-setting win.
Triangle!
Watch out! Triangle! This is trouble! This is trouble!
With just over 2 minutes left, Silva pulled out a desperation triangle choke as Sonnen attempted to posture while landing on his backside as the choke intensified, forcing Sonnen to tap.
He's tapping! It is all over! It is all over!
It was the end of one of the most dramatic fights in UFC history and one of the most incredible come-from-behind victories the sport had ever seen. It was a victory that erased the memory of UFC 112 and Damian Maia, catapulting Silva's legacy to a peak after hitting rock bottom. For Sonnen, he had lost the fight, but he had made himself in the promotional build-up and had also set the table for the ultimate rematch, one that would be that much larger. The question of what if surrounded Sonnen in the wake of the fight, seeing someone come so close. What if he held on for 1 minute and 50 more seconds? What if he escaped the triangle? What if he didn't leave himself open? What if? The following month, that question was answered.
What a way to wake up, but to hear that Chael Sonnen has allegedly failed his post-fight drug test in the Anderson Silva fight. They test for drugs of abuse and performance enhancers. The drugs of abuse test, they had already come back, which means this was a performance-enhancing drug. We don't know what drug it was. If this is a suspension, he's out for at least a year, which means the Anderson Silva-Chael Sonnen rematch scheduled for early 2011 is off the table.
Sonnen was found to have an elevated TE ratio, meaning he was on testosterone for the fight as his drug test came back from the California State Athletic Commission. The limit for a TE ratio in California is 4-1. Sonnen's came back at 16.9-1. Things got tricky, including the elevated ratio, a failure to disclose that he was on testosterone on his form he submitted, but it would also be said by Sonnen that he told Commissioner George Dodd privately before the fight that he had taken a testosterone shot. But Dodd didn't feel that he had the authority to intervene and pull Sonnen from the fight without any evidence to back up Sonnen's own claim. While therapeutic use exemptions existed for athletes, this would open the door for the testosterone replacement therapy era of the sport, which would become a nightmare for regulation and would open up the debate over what is performance enhancing, what is a medical need, and how much overlap exists between the two. For Sonnen, he was handed a suspension and a fine of $2,500 and would not fight again until October of 2011, and eventually would receive his rematch with Anderson Silva in July 2012, and it would be an emphatic victory for Silva that did put the first fight into a different context. One where it's acknowledged Silva had a rib injury coming into the first fight, while Sonnen had the fight of his life that night until the final minutes, and that Anderson Silva was still the best middleweight in the world. But it was a performance and a promotion that made Sonnen's career, adding years to his marketability as a major name that could be plugged in and create interest, and later would parlay those same skills to a career in broadcasting. 2010 would not be the only time in his career that Sonnen would fail a drug test, with more to come in 2014 that would cost him a job as an analyst with Fox and be suspended for 2 more years. His career would end with Bellator in June of 2019. So how do we remember Chael Sonnen's career? Well, a lot like UFC 117. Someone who ascended to the doorstep of greatness before ultimately falling and not being able to win the big one. He failed drug tests. He never became a champion. And yet he will be remembered for his ability to entertain and place a spotlight wherever he chose to fight. The fan base didn't really care what he put into his body. They were more interested in what came out of his mouth. And for that, Chael Sonnen won't be remembered for the losses, but they'll choose to remember the responses.
I want to know how you feel being only inches away from greatness. I want you to tell everybody how it feels. Are you not mesmerized? Do you not have chills going up your spine for the first time on Fox for you to be here in Chael's Octagon on Chael's channel, holding Chael's microphone, interviewing Chael?
I'm pretty excited. I gotta tell
you. While you're thinking about that, remember this. When you're the greatest fighter in the world today, they got a name for you. They don't call you a great fighter. They call you Chael Sonnen. Beat me if you can.
Chael Sonnen, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you say nothing on the fight side. A lot of people took offense to what you said about Lance Armstrong recently, to Larry Pepe. Can you elaborate on that?
I never did an interview with Larry Pepe.
The Lance Armstrong stuff you never said?
I've never spoke of Lance Armstrong ever.
Of Lance Armstrong?
Never. Not until just now.
Great, now we can clear it up.
Perfect.
All right, it goes down this Saturday night live on pay-per-view. Chael Sonnen going up against Anderson Silva for the UFC middleweight title. Best of luck to you, Chael.
Thank you, buddy.